Today's episode is brought to you by Musical Theatre Radio's merch store. Looking for that perfect gift for someone or just want to treat yourself to some great musical theater themed merch? Head to musicaltheaterradio.com and click on the All Things Theater button on the homepage and check out all the different designs available. And now, today's interview. Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. I'm always trying to find ways to support our creative listeners, and introduce you to people and companies that you could utilize to take your shows to the next level. Well, today we are going across the pond to talk to Rhys Williamson, the head of programming at Riverside Studios in London, England. He's here to tell us about the studio, its facilities, and some of the upcoming programming that is going on there. So without further ado, let's welcome Rhys to the show. Hello.
Hi, Jean-Paul. Hi. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Now, before we get to talking about Riverside, let's get to know you a little bit better. So I always ask for a 30-second bio. So who is Rhys in 30 seconds?
I am a West London boy who had a go at a comedy career back in my 20s. Did some Edinburgh Fringe shows, did some stand-up nights whilst also working in cinema management. And then I found my way to this lovely theatre, which is also in sunny West London. And really thrilled to do the programming here for the theatre, pick all the shows. So if you like any, if you like anything that's happened here, that's I'll take it. And if you don't like anything that happened here, then that was the bad night you saw. So that's not my fault. Actually, it was a good pick. That's me, I suppose. And that's 30 seconds. That sums up my entire existence.
Your whole life in 30 seconds. That's who you are.
We contain multitudes, of course. But
So, because this is Musical Theater Radio, were you into musicals growing up? Is that something you were interested in at all, or are you a comedy guy and musicals? It's more Cats and you hate it.
I think living in London and being a fan of arts and culture, you'll just get exposed to musical theatre in a way that's obviously all cities have their theatres and musical theatres, but there's just so much here. So there's such a density of theatre and musical theatres. I suspect there's a higher level of musical theatre in this city than Broadway probably at any given time. So yeah, in terms of like English speaking sort of Western world musical theatre, this you probably wouldn't find. You throw a stone, you hit a chorus line. So so we get exposed to it here as kids a lot. I definitely saw Oliver. I was probably in an Oliver. Everyone goes to see The Lion King. I'm in my mid-30s, so saw that stuff 20 odd years ago, or probably more like 30 odd years ago. My musical theatre taste has skewed a bit more, kind of gone a bit more Sondheim-y, I guess, in my adult life. And I'm not sure that was there so much as a kid, because it's about like grown up stuff. So sometimes just you get there and you grow up a bit. And then also, I guess I'd be remiss if I said that I'm also the age where when I was growing up, that's the sort of 90s Disney musical golden age. So that was just everywhere when you were 8 years old. So very much exposed to that as well. So yeah, sort of. I wouldn't describe myself as a musical theatre guy, but it's there, and I do see a lot of it because I see a lot of everything. We've had it here at the venue. We'll have it again in the future. And yeah, great. I just went to see. I'm sure we'll get to stuff I've seen, but when you see great musical theatre, it has that. It kind of has that special ability to lift you up in a way that maybe nothing else can. So I saw Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet at the Donmar the other month, and yeah, that's you just lifted off your seat by that. That was amazing. Now this crap musical theatre is crap and can bum you out like all stuff can. But when it's
Yep.
good, it's really special. It's really special.
It's true. I love plays, but the musicals are, it's just a whole different ball game and affects you differently. But um, I totally agree with you. So let's talk about Riverside Studio. Tell us a little bit about it, the history and what it is.
Mm-hmm. So we're coming up to our 50th year as an art centre. So we started off in 1976, but even predating that, it was the London's first BBC studio for a dozen years. Opened by the Queen Mother, I believe, and the lots of Doctor Who was filmed here. Lots of very famous 50s and 60s stuff was made here. The Beatles were here, so that's pretty cool. We got pictures of the Beatles in the building. I think the building, before that used to be a steelworks or a mill or something because we're on the river, so would have been a sort of good to send products off for sale. But now we just now we do theatre, and yeah, it's probably its best known period was probably not that far from when it opened back in the kind of late 70s, early 80s. The artistic director Peter Brook was the kind of just a real went on to have a real impact on the UK scene. And we've gone back and forth from being run and owned by the council to having to sort of through the 80s and 90s having much decent sort of public funding, and much like in a lot of the country, that's completely that's gone from us as for many venues. So now we find ourselves a very different world into our 50th year, but and we were closed for 5 years. They did a full renovation of the entire building about 8 years ago. That had us more like about 10 years. 10 years ago, closed for 5 years, reopened literally 3 months before the coronavirus. So that's of course, nothing we could have done about that, but that was not ideal to sort of to really I'm not sure that we did a great job, although I wasn't here at the time, of kind of retaining the inbuilt audience when we closed. So closed, sort of essentially disappeared for 5 years, which in our cultural memory is a long time, to then have to kind of restart right in the middle of COVID. So therefore, essentially, everybody was screwed then. So yeah, it even started, and then we went into administration as a business. That happened, again about 2 years ago, which is it's I think the word is different in the States. It's it's insolvency, bankruptcy,
Mhm.
but because we're a charity, there are other protections that we had as a business, and then we have sort of been rescued out of our insolvency, out of our administration by a lovely gentleman called Anil Agarwal, um, who's sort of made his wealth with a company called Vedanta Resources. And a lovely Indian-born gentleman in his early 70s, now living in the UK, and him and his family have been forever huge fans of the arts, but haven't sort of used their leverage and patronage particularly. So with we're the lovely recipient of this great new patronage, and we're now setting ourselves forward into the next phase. And it feels like there's lots of doom and gloom in the scene, but also opportunities and always excitement, always new work, always emerging talent. And we sort of have always been this, as Riverside now, have always been this quite quirky, quite odd little operation here in a sort of strange part of town. With sort of underdogs, and I quite like that banner, and I think in that time we've had some amazing work and platformed amazing artists and been part of lots of stories, and long may that continue.
Very nice. So how long have you been with Riverside, and how did you get involved?
Sure, 4 years. Worked here 4 years in May. As I mentioned, I worked in a cinema before that. I'd probably say that cinema is my first love personally. But massive fan of the arts overall, absolutely. But probably cinema is not is number one. Um, and I was working in a cinema not that far from here, right around COVID time, and things got shuffled around where I was, and I took it as a good opportunity to move on. And my sister happened to be working here at the time at Riverside in the events team, and I came on board as a box office manager, and have had, and this is I think quite a classic arts venue story, but have had about 7 different jobs in my time here, and now find myself programming the whole place. So that's I'm not going to go into the boring stories of each of those little movements, but this is an excellent job. I mean, they've all been great, but this is but the stakes are high because you gotta pick all the stuff. But I really love, I love art. I mean, we have an artist in all of us. I love how artists think, how creative people think. I love interacting with them and trying to get the best out of them, trying to set themselves up for success. I also love when you see our building is set up in a real kind of multidisciplinary ethos, sort of physically. So we have a main atrium space, but all of our various other bits, and talk about what else is here, but sort of feed into that central space, feed out of it. And I do think that fosters a really fun, collaborative spirit here in the building. And yeah, great. I'm not saying we are a great, sort of an incredibly thought through venue in terms of the design, but I think often the building, what the building is trying to be and what kind of work it's trying to put out is baked into how the place is structured, and I feel that. So yes, what was the question?
It was just, how did you get there? And you answered it, so that still works for me. But let's talk about the facility itself, and how artists and theater people in particular are able to utilize this. Tell us what I see you're able to rent it and use it. So tell us a little bit about the venue.
Sure. So, broad strokes, it's we've got a 450 seat black box studio theatre, which is our kind of tentpole space. We have a 170 seat black box theatre. We have an 100 seat cabaret space, which is a little bit less, which is less technically proficient than the other ones. And all of those are available sort of for artistic hire. Although, me in the programming department, myself as a programmer, we do only program work that we wish to be part of the program, and then the kind of finances of that then get arranged. But it's not as though you can drive up with a dump truck of money. I guess if there was loads of money in the truck, you probably could, but
Yeah.
artists don't really have loads of money. So broadly, it's I find the work that interests me and is kind of suits our plans, and then they either pay us a rental fee or we do a box office split. 70-30 box office split is kind of our standard, and that's how we run those 3 live performance spaces. And we also have 2 cinema screens. We also have rehearsal rooms and other spaces that we do creative workshops in. We have a wellness strand, which is a bit more for the local community probably. But hey, a yoga class is good for a singer as well.
Yeah.
So get involved. And we have different programming strands specifically for artist development. So we have an R&D program. We have a kind of new work festival, which is called Bite Size, which is now into its 6th edition. We're running that. We actually started that around COVID time. So we think that's a really great opportunity and platform we can give to emerging artists. And there's no fees or anything for that. So it's just, we have an open call. It's open at the moment. The next festival is in July, and it's looking like we're on track to probably get 300, 400 submissions, which is twice what we got last year. So that's growing. At a certain point, we might need to make it. The eligibility is very open at the moment, and probably we are there's too much coming in now, so it's going to be hard to filter through everything. But it's part of the fun, and there'll be some wonderful diamonds in there, and we'll try and put forward all those. And then there's we're just a public sort of a public local community space. So our doors are open from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. There's sort of are always, I think, creatives and artists in the building, whether they have a kind of current engagement with us or not. And as I was saying before, that lovely collaboration that we try and foster. Because I say there's probably nothing better for artists' imagination and creativity than to be inspired by other work. So, we always have stuff running, performances, cinema. We have a full exhibit space as well. So there's always lovely art on the walls to inspire and to be sold. So yes, and we've done international work. I'm aware I'm speaking to a lovely Canadian. I'm trying to think if we've had Canadian work over, perhaps not, but we've had our outgoing CEO, who's just gone on to run the Edinburgh Fringe Society, which is very exciting. But he was South Africa. He was South African. He wasn't South Africa. So we had a good amount of lovely, lot of South African work over the past 5 years. I've had a decent amount of American stuff, particularly into our big studio, because sort of somehow it is cheaper often for an off-Broadway or sometimes even a Broadway production, a Broadway producer, to fly an entire US production out to here and pay our rates and pay to put people up, etc. That is somehow cheaper than getting a space off Broadway, which is crazy. But then you see, what was it? Merrily We Roll Along had their top ticket price was like $700 or something crazy. So that's why.
Yeah.
So those, I think those are various artistic opportunities. But the one I would like to get out there, particularly now, is the Bite Size Festival coming this July, and we take international work. So please do have a think. And really the only rules for it is it's live performance. Shows have to be under 60 minutes, but that's kind of it.
Well, I will see what I can do then. Be one of the first Canadians.
Get in
over there and get my stuff over. So let's talk about programming. Tell us some of the programming you've got coming up, because I know it just launched, I believe, or is just about to. Tell us a little bit about what you've got coming up.
Yeah. So we just sort of started our spring season, which March, April, May. I would say that it's broadly I went to Edinburgh last summer and I saw 40 shows in 6 days, which is quite intense. And this is a load of fun stuff that I found. So highlights. They're all highlights, right? They're all wonderful. We had a 1 week show last week called Beats, which is concluded now. But that was a one-man show. You get this. I get this often, which is just a person's just read a script and they just have a fire to perform this text, and it's it's hard to even describe why is this text appealed to this person so much they're willing to go through all of this bullshit to make stuff happen. But this was one of those cases where it was just a firing passion within Ned, who is the performer producer, to do it. So that was that, and I'm actually probably not going to reel off all of the stuff in the spring season, but I'm particularly excited about a show in May called Dear Annie, which was again a show in Edinburgh, and she's an American writer performer, Sam Ipinina, and that's it was one of those shows in Edinburgh or in general in fringe festivals you go to where you walk into this tiny weird little room in a church hall that you have no expectations for, that you just found a flyer has fallen out of a window and popped you on the eye, and you realize, I guess I've got a 57-minute gap between two shows. And I walked in and there was all this incredible tech set and and the creativity, just the ambition of the show. And sometimes you've got to see, in my job, you've got to see what these people, you've got to kind of got to imagine if you can offer them a bit more of a bit more of a space to do a bit more of a show with. You can really see, oh, these are ambitious. This is an ambitious gang, and the show is really fun. It's about her. She was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm as a young woman, and how she dealt with that. And not to spoil it, but the aneurysm is represented by a performer in the show. But it's a great reveal. It was one of the most memorable moments at the Fringe I had last year, and so that's coming. And that's all in our smaller of the two studios, and our kind of big tentpole show for spring into summer. Actually, it's a show called The Empire Strips Back, which has been running in Australia, running in America. It's its first UK birth, and it's a Star Wars parody burlesque musical. Or musical is probably not quite the right word. It's it's a little bit gig theatery. It's a little bit musical. It's burlesque, and yeah, the numbers have been amazing, and we're really excited to have it. So that's in for a big chunk. That's in for 16 weeks, which is a really decent length for us. Really excited about that. That starts, and I'll give you one guess as to when the opening night for that show is. So it's a Star Wars burlesque parody show.
I want,
May the 4th. So yes, The Empire Strips Back. May the 4th. May the 4th be with all of us.
Very nice. Cool. Well, tell us, you got now the important part. You got to tell us how we learn more about Riverside Studios, the websites, the socials, all that fun stuff.
Just email me. Just email me. My email is contact@Riverside. No, go to riversidestudios.co.uk. Click on our what's at the moment. I think we have 100 different events on sale. So there's a lot going on here always. Have a look there and see what mad shit we're doing this week. On a programming perspective, if you're interested in reaching out to talk to me or to make a pitch of a show to come to Riverside, email programming@riversidestudios.co.uk, and we dip into that inbox a couple of times a month, so won't be an instant reply, but you'll hear from us eventually. And yeah, we're always interested in going out to shows. So again, aware you're a Canadian operation, but if you have any UK London listeners and they have shows and they would like interested in perhaps a transfer, then reach out and invite us to those shows. Or I probably go see four shows a week probably, and sharings to R&Ds, and yeah, but also just if you want, we do sort of informal dramaturgy on scripts. We give feedback on stuff, all on that programming inbox. So feel free to reach out in that capacity as well. Or just say hello. Just send a letter. Send a pigeon. Do a smoke signal. Put a little boat, put a message in a bottle, throw it in, that we are on the river. So potentially it will reach us. It will come to our shores. Maybe.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming on and introducing our listeners to Riverside Studios, because we need venues like the one you have. They're not giant size, but you know what? They're perfect for us to get something on stage, get it on its feet, to see it in front of an audience. And we do have a ton of listeners in the UK. That's, so there might be people coming to contact you by all those pigeons and boats and things like that. So
we also do one thing I'll add is we do scratch nights as well. So I feel like the Royal Court has gotten a lot of coverage the last couple of weeks for announcing their scratch night. They're just doing one. We do a scratch night every 2 weeks. So please, if you even just want to get something on its feet, it's just an excerpt. Reach out. I'm interested in trying to set up a musical theatre scratch night, which is specific for musical theatre. So if any of your listeners out there might help us get that going, please do reach out. We have a writing workshop too, which is called Riverside. So even if scratch that is kind of for you've got something written you want to see on stage. Even if you're at the stage before that, you've got an idea, or you've got what's the trump line? You've got the concepts of a plan. Please, have a think about joining up to River Scribes, and we will take those concepts of a plan and we will turn it into an immigration policy. No, we'll turn it into
Yeah.
a script, a fun script, and then maybe the scratch night, and then into the festival. And I like to think of the ethos as a bit of a river. We kind of offer lots of opportunities along an artist's journey along that river. And sometimes that journey is Operation Mincemeat, which was here, which your listeners will all know just made its Broadway debut, and we had that original cast here in the building a few years ago, and that was we weren't their first stop, but of course we weren't their last stop either. So we are there along their journey on the river, and we can also offer multiple steps to the same company, because again, to go from a writing workshop and up through a 500 seat theatre space, that really you can do a lot with that journey, and then again send the ship. This metaphor is getting confusing, but I'm going to stick with it. Send the ship of the show on onto the bright lights of Broadway.
This might have been the most nautical themed interview I've done. So,
well, I mean,
you are a first. You're a pioneer. You're like the
Christopher
Vikings.
Columbus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rhys, thank you again so much for this, and I look forward to hearing if any of the shows that I know or any of the people that this has touched heads over to your facility and utilizes it, because like I said, we need these type of venues. So thank you for being a part of the journey for shows and helping them reach their port, if you will.
We nailed it.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thanks,
all right. So again, thanks, Rhys, and all the best with everything.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So we were just speaking with Rhys Williamson, the head of programming at Riverside Studios in London, England. So if you have a show, you want to get it on its feet, you want to test some stuff, check them out. See if that facility works for you. Tune in next week as we speak with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion. That is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.